Hi, welcome back to another yoga video. If you're new here, my name is Emily, and today we're talking all about Yin Yoga. Yin is becoming an increasingly popular style of yoga to practice, and it is really different from other more active types of yoga like Hatha or Vinyasa. So I wanted to give you a bit of information about what Yin is and how it works. I have recently trained to teach Yin Yoga because I love practicing it so much. I love the effect that it has on my body, on my mind. I always come away from a Yin Yoga class feeling like I've had a massage. So I hope that it will have the same effect on you. I am going to be putting some Yin videos onto this YouTube channel very soon, some practices that you can follow along with. So make sure that you're subscribed to this channel if you want to see those. And in this video, here are some of the things that I'm going to cover, some of the questions that you might have around Yin, and I've put the little timestamps there so that if you wanted to skip ahead to a particular thing that you're interested in, then you can. So let's start with the first question. What is Yin Yoga? Yin is a slow, soft, relaxing style of yoga. There's no active poses, nothing strengthening, no balancing. We're not going to do any tree poses or warriors in a Yin Yoga practice. Instead, we stay low to the ground and we use lots of props like cushions, big yoga bolsters, blankets and bricks to help us to get to a place where we can just relax into the pose. So there's very little effort in the body in Yin. We come into each asana, each posture, and find a place where we can feel some kind of sensation, some kind of a gentle stretch, but nothing too intense. And then we just pause there. We let the muscles relax. We try and make the body as effortless as possible, using things like the bolster, cushions, blankets to lean into, to take that effort away from the body. And then we stay there for a longer period of time. So at least a minute, sometimes up to 5 minutes or even beyond that. And with these longer stretches, these longer periods of time that we stay in each posture, we're gradually releasing and applying a very gentle stretch to the fascia in the body, the connective tissues. I'll explain a bit more on that a little bit later. But through that release, we can start to free up tension around tight areas like the lower back, the hips, around the joints where we might have a little bit reduced mobility or less flexibility. So for that reason, Yin Yoga is amazing if your body is quite stiff or inflexible. You don't need to have a bendy body for Yin Yoga at all. The release of fascia also has an amazing effect on the nervous system, bringing us into a deep state of relaxation, into the state of rest and digest of the parasympathetic nervous system. As we stay in each posture for a longer period of time, it's an opportunity to practice stillness, to practice just being with yourself, having this really concentrated time with yourself. It's a very introspective practice. And the challenge really is that it's not so much a physical challenge of strength or balance like other styles of yoga. The challenge in Yin is, can you be okay with just sitting with yourself, being still for this long amount of time, and just observing, noticing, sitting with whatever feelings, thoughts and emotions come to the surface. What does Yin mean? The concepts of Yin and Yang come from ancient Chinese philosophy. They're principles or qualities that are found in everything in the natural world. Yin represents the slow, passive, restorative, calm energy in things. And Yang represents the fast, the fiery, the energetic, the chaotic energy in things. You might be familiar with the Yin-Yang symbol, which demonstrates that within the Yin there is some Yang, and within the Yang there is some Yin. So everything is a nice sort of balance and blend of the two. And within yoga, Yin represents those calm, restorative practices, slowing down, steady breath work, relaxing, and the Yang would represent anything that's strong warrior poses, balancing, arm balances, inversions, things that are fiery and difficult and challenging. So how is Yin different from other types of yoga? So as I've just said about Yin and Yang, Yin being the soft and relaxing, Yang being the strong and fiery, in all styles of yoga there is at least an element of Yin. There's some kind of relaxing, restorative energy that happens in all styles of yoga. But in most styles of yoga there's also some Yang. So there's also something strong, something fiery, standing strong poses, inversions, balances. So the difference between Yin Yoga and other styles is that in Yin, we forget about the Yang. We don't do anything strong or fiery. Everything is very Yin, very slow, very soft. Why don't you warm up first in Yin? This is a really interesting question and something that I was really curious about for a long time. So we don't warm up before a Yin practice because we're not actually really targeting the muscles with these stretches. Instead, we're targeting the connective tissues or fascia. So fascia is this web of connective tissues that goes around everything in the body, providing internal structure, holding bones, muscles, organs, and everything else in their place. And there are certain areas around the joints particularly, so the lower back and the hips, around the shoulders, areas where that fascia, that connective tissue, can get really, really tough and quite tight and stiff and prevents us from being able to move around freely. And really we want the fascia, it's designed to be smooth and flexible so that it moves with us. So this is why if you do have quite an inflexible body, Yin Yoga is probably going to be really helpful because that's what we're targeting, that fascia, that thick layer of connective tissues that can be really, really tight. So coming back to why we don't warm up, if you think about your muscles as elastic bands, when we warm up the muscles, they become those long, stretchy elastic bands. When we come into a stretch position, they can then take all of that stretch and they go to that long position. If the muscle is cold and not warmed up, it's going to be one of those thicker, tighter rubber bands that doesn't stretch quite as far. So if we then come into a position where we're trying to lengthen, that muscle's going to stay shorter, and so the thing on either end, the connective tissues around the muscle, are going to take some of the strain of that stretch. Now you might be thinking, isn't that dangerous to be stretching connective tissues, to be stretching ligaments and tendons? And yes, it would be dangerous if we were yanking against them, if we were pulling really vigorously or repeatedly pulling, but that's not what we're going to do in a Yin Yoga practice. Instead, we come into these very gentle stretches and it's a sustained, steady hold. So we never want to come to a place where it's intense, where it feels short or sharp or painful in any way. We just come to just at the edge of what's comfortable. So we start to feel a little bit of sensation. We pause there, let everything soften, and then gradually over time, and this is why we hold in these postures for longer, the fascia slowly starts to release. There's been loads of amazing research over recent years about fascia and the way that it responds to long, sustained holds in these postures, a very gentle but sustained stretch. So if you only hold a posture for about 30 seconds, you will feel a small shift, a small release, but the effects will be quite minimal and very short lasting. Whereas if you come into a posture and hold it for a few minutes, you usually find that after a minute or so, the fascia and the connective tissues start to just give and loosen, and you sometimes can really feel a drop where you start to just go a little bit. So you usually find that you come away feeling like you've had a massage, like you've had that deep release of tension in the body. Who is Yin Yoga for and who is it not for? One of the things I really love about Yin Yoga is how accessible it is for all body types and abilities. So it can really be practiced by pretty much anyone. However, if you do have hypermobility, then it may not be the best kind of practice for your body, only because with hypermobility, it's often the case that your connective tissues, your ligaments and tendons are already a little bit looser and more stretchy. And so there can be some instability around the joints because of that. So if you are someone with hypermobility, it's always best to check with your doctor, your physiotherapist, or any specialist to see whether they think that Yin would be suitable for your body. But it is really a case-by-case basis, so see what's right for you. But if you're on the other end of the spectrum of flexibility, if you're living in a body that is not particularly bendy or flexible, then Yin may be an amazing practice for you to find a bit more freedom and fluidity in those joints. And as we turn to yoga to bring us to a state of balance, if you are someone who lives a very yang kind of lifestyle, so if you are very stressed, if you have a busy life, chaotic, noisy, energetic, then what you might find is to bring you to a state of balance, a yin style of practice might be really beneficial. Sometimes when we go to a yoga class, we think we have to go for a really active, strong practice to make it count. But if you're looking to bring yourself to a place of balance, to restore your energy, if your life is very yang at the moment, going towards a yin practice might be beneficial. And one last thing on who yin is for, I will also just mention that because of the nature of yin, because we spend a lot of time practicing stillness and there's a lot of opportunity for quiet reflection, if you're going through a particularly difficult time, either emotionally or maybe with your mental health, just be aware that you may find it quite an overwhelming practice because there's a lot of time to just sit with your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. I'm not saying you shouldn't practice yin yoga. It might be that that's exactly what you need, but it's just something to be aware of. I hope that has been helpful and given you some information on what yin yoga is, who it's for, and how it works. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you liked this video, please click the thumbs up and let me know that you found it helpful. If you haven't subscribed already, then please subscribe. There's going to be some yin yoga practices coming to this channel very soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.